My life with 2020 Texas Gladiators began in the year 1987 when I first spotted it at a local video store. However, it wasn't until the year 1990 that I finally took it home as a rental. The reason for that was from 88 to 1990, I mainly only rented horror films. It was a rare exception that I rented anything but. In 1990, things changed. My parents decided that I was spending way too much time watching horror and I needed to rent at least one title a week that was not going to be a horror film. Now, I didn't rent videos every week, but sometimes, 2 or 3 weeks in a row, maybe I would, maybe every other week. And then sometimes if I was punished or whatever, grounded, I would rent one, go to a rental once a month, I guess. But for the most part, it was a weekly thing. And every Saturday morning, my dad would take me into town. He would go politicking, as they called it, and he would leave me at the video store for an hour to an hour and a half. And I would come home, depending on the video store, with either four rentals or six rentals because one video store was cheaper than the others. So I rented this title in 1990, took it home, and it was probably the first one I watched because I wanted to get it out of the way because it wasn't a horror film. Even though I always thought the cover was striking, I always dug the cover, even though I've never been into gladiatorial films, the cover of 2020 kicks ass. That's just a badass cover. And um, I watched it. Now, the soundtrack always stuck with me. I remember the next week going through school with that theme music still in my head. So that was a good thing. But the only other thing about the movie that stuck out for me was a really cute blonde, who ended up being, of course, Sabrina Ciani, a legendary B-movie beauty of Italian cinema in the early 80s. It wasn't until 1993 that I rented it again and recorded it because I remember how beautiful Sabrina Ciani was and how much that theme music kicked ass. So I gave it another watch as I was recording it, and said, the movie's not bad. I kind of like this. Over the next few years, I probably watched it 6 or 7 times, and then finally kind of just let it go for a while. I had my recorded copy, but eventually the tape got ate, and there was quite a few years there where I didn't watch it. Well, about 11 years ago, I started watching it on YouTube again because somebody had a really good uh, VHS media home video copy up and running, and I would watch it probably about 4 or 5 times a year for the last 11 years. So it's been a mainstay with me. Now, is it a great movie? By no means. Is it good? Yeah, depends on the viewer. I think it's totally decent. I give it 2.5 stars. And last year, I found out that Severin was releasing it with a CD soundtrack. Now, this was really important to me because this film had been released several times and I hadn't bit the bullet, purchased it. But once I found out the soundtrack was on it, that was an entirely different deal. So last month I committed to looking it up and found out Severin was selling it at a discounted price of 46 bucks. Now, 46 bucks, including a badass soundtrack, I don't know. It was still a little pricey to me. So I went on eBay and I found a seller that was going to sell it, shipping included, 30 bucks. Now I thought, is a Severin sticker worth $20? Of course not. It's nice to have them, but no, the sticker's not worth 20 bucks, so I'm going to buy it from this private seller. So I did. And here it is. All right, here is the document. Now, I've heard a lot of people going on and on about how much they love this cover. They love the collage of various B-movie films. And of course, all of these B-movie films represented on this cover are not from 2020 Texas Gladiators. We have Death Sport right here. Death Sport, okay? Right here. This is Rollerball, 1975 with James Caan. They just added an arm and a sword instead of a spiked glove. Um, I'm not impressed with that. I'm not impressed with that at all. Severin has done some great slip covers along with many other companies, and I think that's crap. However, on the reverse, we have original art inspired by the film. That's great. Well, that's really good. I like that. But this front cover and this collage, I think that's bullshit. I'm totally not impressed with that, so I really don't care for the slip cover. However, And we have it. That's the cover. That has impressed me since 1987. That is kick-ass. All right, let's take a look. All right, pretty cool. Reversible art. That's cool. Very nice. It's like a winner to me. All right. So I am definitely looking forward to watching this, and I'm more so looking forward to popping the CD into the stereo of my Mustang and cruising around it all week next week. So looking forward to that. What else to say? Joe D'Amato, director of the film, I believe co-writer. Uh, this was not the first Joe D'Amato film I ever saw. The first one was Ator the Fighting Eagle, which I saw on TBS's Superstation back in 1988. This was the second film of his that I saw, but the third and most beloved for quite some time was 1979 or 1980's Grim Reaper, which is the U.S. title, original title being Anthropophagus. Uh, this flick right here. Good flick. Not as great as I remember it being. Under the title of Grim Reaper for a few years, seeing it first in 91. So from 91 to 96, I had believed that this film was one of the greatest Italian horror films ever made, one of the greatest horror films, period. A total freak show and a great one. However, rewatching it in 96 or 97, I kind of said, man, not so much. It's good, but it's not great. All right. I initially set out to make this the shortest video I'd ever put on YouTube, and I think I'm going to achieve that. Later.